KLH is a longtime customer of IMAGINiT, and Jim is going to share how KLH is going outside the box to transform their organization and increase their profitability. Before I turn it over to Jim, I wanted to take just a couple minutes and give a really quick overview of RAND worldwide. So RAND, or IMAGINiT, has a pretty large footprint in North America. What you're looking at here is the large dots are physical office locations. The smaller dots are locations where we have people that have home offices. We pretty much cover all of the U.S. and a lot of Canada. We have 31 office locations with roughly about 450 employees across North America. As part of a larger organization, RAND Worldwide is the umbrella company, and there's actually 4 companies that reside within RAND. A lot of the folks on this call probably know IMAGINiT and look at IMAGINiT as an Autodesk reseller, an Autodesk partner, but there is a lot more that we do than just the Autodesk side of things. Obviously, we're the, well, not obviously, IMAGINiT is Autodesk's largest partner in North America. The IMAGINiT business accounts for roughly about 93% of the overall RAND revenue, and it is the largest part of RAND Worldwide. We also do things like Leica. We're an authorized partner for Leica, so we do sell the scanners and reality capture software. We have a partnership with Aptura, which a lot of you may recognize Archibus from a facilities management side. We have a dedicated sales team and consulting group that is 100% focused on facilities management. We have a partnership with Eagle Point, whereas we leverage Eagle Point's learning management system as the underlying platform for our Productivity Now offering. Not only do we include the Eagle Point content, but we also include our Ascent content as well, which is unique to IMAGINiT. And we also tie it into our support system, so it's all integrated. We have a fairly new partnership with SBS. Those in the utility space are probably familiar with SBS as a leader in that space, specifically around substation design. We have a former partnership with those guys to provide all of their learning content within our Productivity Now platform. So any utility that ultimately wants to get access to the SBS learning content accesses it through our Productivity Now platform. We have a formal relationship with Epic Games. Before Autodesk started offering Twinmotion in the AEC collection, we were the sole partner in North America for customers to buy Twinmotion. We still provide and can provide expertise around the Unreal Engine platform, and a newer partnership with ProModel, which is a software really geared around workflow simulation to allow organizations to make better business decisions. Moving on to the second kind of company within RAND Sim. So back in 2011, Autodesk acquired a company called Blue Ridge Numerics and acquired their CFD software. They had a consulting group at that point. That consulting group broke off on its own and created a company called IDP. In 2012, RAND acquired IDP, which is the consulting arm of the old Blue Ridge Numerics company, and basically added that group or that CFD and FEA capabilities to our service offerings within RAND. Fast forward to 2018, we decided to become an ANSYS partner and sell the ANSYS software. And at that time, we formalized and created a group or a company within RAND called RAND Sim that's dedicated to simulation and the ANSYS partnership. The unique thing there is, being a partner for only 5 years, we've actually won North America Partner of the Year both in 2020 and in 2022. So pretty proud of that. That group is one of the fastest growing groups within RAND. There's 40 plus people in it today. And last year, we from 2018 to today, we have gone from 0 to roughly about 24 million in revenue. So really fast growing group. The third group, RAND 3D, back in the late 80s, early 90s, RAND was a very significant and large PTC partner. One one thing led to another. We no longer sell the software, but we continually do training and consulting to customers using Dassault and PTC software. So that group strictly does training and consulting around those two platforms. And lastly, the Ascent group, or the Ascent company, if you've ever gone to a Autodesk Learning Center, chances are at some point you've probably used an Autodesk Ascent manual. So that group provides courseware for Autodesk, Dassault, PTC, but above and beyond just writing courseware, we offer quite a few other services around documentation, standards, technical writing. A lot of our customers who have custom applications or custom software that they've developed, this group, a lot of times customers will hire us to write their user guides or user manuals or update the content within these manuals. That's what they do. They're really good at doing that. Content development, we do a lot of content development for both instructor-led and self-paced learning, and we offer services around technical editing and things like that as well. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Jim, and Jim, take it from there.
Thank you, Jamie. I'd like to thank you and the entire IMAGINiT team for the opportunity to share the KLH story. So I'm Jim Tavernelli, President and Chief Operating Officer of KLH Engineers. I've been with the company about 22 years. It's kind of hard to believe, but time moves fast. I'd also like to thank you for attending. My goal here is to give you some actionable takeaways for your business, so let's get after it. All right, this tweet went viral several years ago. As you skim through and read it, I'm going to break it down for you. So newcomers leverage technology, but not just for the sake of leveraging technology. They put the customer first. And so the incumbents weren't aware, or they didn't care to address industry-wide consumer issues that were so pervasive, they just accepted it. So something is missing from this list. And you're going to notice there's nothing from the AEC industry. I'm going to ask you, how do you think a building owner would tweet something similar from their perspective? Asked differently, what would they say about architects, engineers, or contractors when a newcomer upends the industry? You know, it might say something like, they did it to themselves with lack of coordination, change orders, high cost of construction, sliding schedules, and lack of predictability. Then I'm going to ask you, who do you think that newcomer will be? The unfortunate irony is that some of us are the blockbusters in this example. KLH certainly was, but our fate doesn't have to be theirs. We also have the chance to be the Netflix or the Ubers in this example. I'm guessing you joined this webinar because you have an appreciation for technology. That's important, but don't also forget the customer. Their pain should not be accepted as foregone conclusions. So as you remove yourself from how everything typically works in the industry and imagine how new technology and workflows will prevent those pains. That's an envisioned future, but you got to take matters into your own hands to get there. Said differently, you got to play offense. And this webinar is going to share the KLH story on how we played offense to drive growth in the business. But let's first recognize that none of our problems are unique. There's modernization challenges, talent challenges, profit challenges, addressing the challenge of breaking away from traditional processes and hierarchical structures that inhibit innovation and adaptability. You got to promote a culture of innovation and creativity and experimentation. So establishing an environment that encourages creative problem solving, experimentation with new ideas, and the adoption of cutting-edge technologies to drive project efficiency and effectiveness. And from a talent perspective, we all struggle to find skilled employees. So establishing an environment that encourages creative problem solving, we're going to go ahead and move on. So we're going to move into some construction industry statistics. 16% of those surveyed say their organizations have fully integrated systems and tools. 23.6% say none of the software applications they use integrate. And then 32.5% of construction firms say that they lack staff to support technology and the primary limiting factor to adopting new technologies. So conversely, we know we have to go, have to go into BIM. So BIM represents a tangible solution to our modernization and profitability challenges. 79% of respondents say their future growth is dependent on digital tools. 61% report BIM processes reduced project error, and 82% reported that BIM users report a positive return on investment. So the glaring question here is, why do we struggle with adoption? So everyone has likely seen this graphic before. This is the technology adoption curve. It shows how different groups embrace new technologies over time. And that chasm in the middle represents the gap between early adopters and the early majority in tech adoption, where many new products fail to bridge the gap over to mainstream use. So where would you peg your company, and which side of the chasm do you think you're on? Do you know construction is the last major industry to adopt software and technology as a means to collaborate and to do better? And this makes us a big, juicy target for significant disruption. So the billion-dollar question here, in fact, it might even be a trillion-dollar question, is who will create that disruption? So will a construction company become technology savvy before a technology company becomes construction savvy? Well, it might sound like hyperbole. You don't have to take my word for it. So these are all the new construction technology companies that have emerged in the market. So yeah, there's a ton of them. And the venture capital just keeps on coming. There's $7.1 billion of investment since 2017, with over 741 fundraising rounds. So as you can see, VCs are throwing some serious amounts of money at this opportunity. And while the software and technology companies aim to get your business, your competitors are trying to take it. So never let a good crisis go to waste. I think the president once said that. So those companies that heeded the advice, they innovated their way to a stronger position. And before the pandemic, leaders in enterprise technology were growing 2 times faster than the laggards. And the latest research shows that leaders have doubled down on their tech investments and are now growing at a 5x pace faster than laggards. I will tell you, it's not too late. So here's our story. Given all the change in the industry, we're all on some journey of some kind. And for KLH Engineers, that started a little over 7 years ago. Our journey started by recognizing that we had a serious problem, and this image describes KLH prior to 2016. As a traditional MEP engineering firm, we were providing little value to our projects, and frankly, we were contributing to the vast amounts of waste. We were relying on what worked for us 10 to 15, even 20 years ago, and as a result, quality and culture were waning. Our position in the value stream was being devalued. It was even being commoditized. And quite frankly, we're even potentially being eliminated. Candidly, we would have likely been out of business by now had things not changed for the better. So thankfully, me and some of my partners got the wake-up call that we needed. This awakening set the company on the path of fundamentally reinventing the way we work and who we serve. There was a distinct inflection point where our leaders looked at one another and asked, how do we fix this thing? Knowing that there's fee compression, there's ongoing schedule compression, and of course the rising demands. How do we remain relevant in the AEC industry? So this vision became the charter for our technical future. First, KLH committed to executing all projects in a 3D BIM platform. We could no longer support 2 platforms, that being, of course, CAD. We had to abandon the legacy 2D AutoCAD platform. Second, we created an independent database that allows us to connect building models and share data in a more streamlined and meaningful way. And third, as disciples of Edwards Deming, we have to build automation to improve efficiency and embed process into our software tools. The strategy describes key behaviors now to execute that vision. We had to act like a startup. And in that third bullet point under vision, we knew we had to start building a software development team. We had to focus on building a culture of innovation and, more importantly, taking risks, be willing to take risks. Sacrifice short-term profits and be willing to spend money on employees and technologies. You got to prove to your employees that you're serious about going there. And developing a bench of future leaders to leverage and scale. And lastly, and more importantly, focus on delivering more value to the market. So how are we differentiating ourselves from our competitors is important. We recognized early on that being the best at fully leveraging Revit out of the box would limit our ability to separate from the competition. And waiting on Autodesk to solve the problem meant we were allowing someone else to control our destiny. Now, leveraging Dynamo is better. Certainly that opportunity exists, but we felt that still wasn't enough to get us there. We didn't let the tools we were given drive where we wanted to go, so we reversed it and focused on creating new technology for ourselves. And as such, it made sense for us to start bringing on in-house software developers as part of the execution strategy. Speaking of Autodesk, this is a quote from their CEO, Andrew Anagnost. Our mission is to empower innovators everywhere, innovators like you, with design and make technology so you can achieve the new possible. Everyone should agree with that quote. It's a great one. But the irony is that while it's meant to be transformational, it reinforces the narrative that you have to play offense and own your future. Autodesk is not going to prescribe process-based solutions to its customers. They want to be the platform by which their customers create those process-based solutions. So after the vision and strategy were set, I personally felt a ton of pressure to get it off the ground internally. Honestly, I initially underestimated our employees' ability to bridge that gap with the skill sets that currently existed in the organization. And frankly, I was surprised to find we were closer than I thought. My job at the onset was to communicate this vision with conviction. Come hell or high water, we were doing this. It became our first step as a company moving with intent, and it set off a chain of profound events. Our renewed purpose had its fair share of skeptics, and many of those skeptics left the company. Turnover of any kind, it sucks. But as I look back on it, it was critical to liberating those who believed in it and wanted to be part of building something special. So we focused on those individuals. We learned their individual strengths and then showed them how they could leverage those strengths towards executing on the vision. That snowballed in a hurry. We empowered them and we got the hell out of the way. What we found was we already had some employees who were programming hobbyists. They were silently and very much unknowingly creating smaller scale efficiency tools for themselves on their own respective projects. We called these individuals doer programmers because they had an appreciation and an understanding of engineering process that made all the difference in the world. So this became a powerful foundation for adding additional developers to a software team, since they can align the needs of the core business with the abilities of the software team. So there's a famous business quote. Peter Drucker said, "Culture eats strategy for lunch." Culture is not strong and healthy. I don't care. The best strategy in the world, it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a lick of difference. This is the point where I realized that my job was just getting started. And I will share that the leader's role at the beginning seems to be the most overlooked part of any book or presentation on organizational change. I became obsessed with how to establish the desired behaviors within KLH to give our strategy a chance. I had to decide how I was going to show up differently and how I would drive change through the organization. That took a lot of courage and confidence. I put myself out there. Everything I did or said was delivered with energy and enthusiasm, even when I got blank stares back at me. And I knew it had to start top down. Otherwise, we risked the inevitability, everyone getting busy and resuming old habits. So we gravitated toward agile methods as an ideal solution to keep the visibility and energy high and the momentum going on the execution. So this isn't a presentation on the Kanban, but I will share that the Kanban is a workflow management method designed to help organizations visualize their work, maximize efficiency, and more importantly, be agile. It literally in Japanese means billboard or signboard. So we established a routine of daily Kanban huddles by appointing team members to huddle around the board to track near-term and task-oriented tickets by verifying that work is progressing on a daily basis. The three primary questions that I served as, I called myself the Scrum Lord. What did you work on yesterday? What are you working on today? And are there any obstacles in your way? My job was to tear down those obstacles to keep things moving. So our tasks are designed to produce minimally viable products, MVPs, you've likely heard that term, such that the team developed an agile, iterative mindset. The daily huddle provided a foundation for driving cultural change because it encourages accountability. There's inherent accountability built within the process. Aligning a small team to the rhythm of a daily huddle also enabled our team to work and complete tasks quickly and making quick progress towards the larger goal. And then soon thereafter, many of our employees realized that great things were possible. Now, the pattern that emerged from our Kanban is that most of our employees' desired outcomes required software programming resources, whether that was internally or sourced externally. Now, we were blessed to have a handful of those doer programmers that I mentioned a moment ago, but their availability became super scarce because everyone wanted their attention. Their ability to create tools and workflows for the user, because they themselves are a user, is incredibly unique. And working within the Revit API, it unlocked the potential for a whole bunch of automation and data-driven collaboration. So as momentum builds, I found my role switching more to preaching and cheerleading. I would passionately reinforce our vision to motivate and unite employees, particularly those that were hesitant and skeptical about that change. I would frequently say that the company was reinventing itself, and therefore that required each of us to reinvent ourselves. This didn't mean our employees needed a programming proficiency to get involved. That was a huge misconception. Their contributions were by what they knew in terms of engineering. And we also weren't going to measure their contributions in terms of an ROI. That was important, especially in the early days. Now, preaching helps overcome fear and skepticism, like clarifying that automation and becoming a tech-oriented company enhances our respective goals and roles rather than replacing them or sidelining them. An open communication about the company's investment reassured where that money was going. I had to be proactive, I had to be inclusive, and the prime advocate for the why behind the changes. And I will share that the most effective means to cheerlead is simply by acknowledging the positive progress through celebrations. And in this particular image, you may be asking yourself what the hell's going on there. One of our goals, as you saw, was to abandon AutoCAD and get the entire company aligned in Revit. And so when we finally teetered over into that realm of all of new projects were in Revit, we had a happy hour where we commemorated and memorialized that achievement by literally burning AutoCAD manuals. But everyone had a lot of fun with that. Now, as the energy and the incitement of the Kanban strengthened, our team became more confident in their abilities to execute. My preaching empowered others to be vulnerable and plug into the energy, and the celebrations inspired the organization to believe in the direction of the company, and culture was authentically engaged. This right here is the magic of that transformation process. Things that were previously believed to be impossible were now viewed as totally possible, and it took a life of its own. KLH's culture began executing that strategy, that same strategy bottom up. And of course, I couldn't help but sit back and smile. With the team playing offense, I knew it was time to accelerate and double down on building more software developers in-house. But interestingly enough, we're not the only ones. This has become an ongoing trend here in the AEC industry. firms are increasingly looking outside the industry for technical expertise. And in this particular graph, albeit from 2019, it's that old. It shows that nearly 2/3 of those responding firms have hired what they're calling an AEC outsider within the past 24 months to help with their innovation efforts. The most common additions, of course, are software developers, data analysts, data scientists, and even game designers and VR specialists. You heard Jamie mention Epic Games as an example there. But in order to build a software team, we couldn't just hire 10 programmers right out the chute. Again, the first step is to totally understand the strengths and weaknesses of those already on board your team. You may be surprised to find that many of the leaders and programming hobbyists are already within the walls. They just need to be empowered and shown that opportunity. Now, the doer programmer served as our foundation for that development team. And we expanded the capacity of those doer programmers by surrounding them with co-ops/interns. That's kind of a local term for us, co-ops. So co-op software engineers. This was a low-risk strategy, and low cost, by the way, to introduce a fresh perspective and create that energy of a startup. And it only made sense for us to hire those co-ops once they graduated. And that was a natural growth strategy to begin building a permanent full-time software team. And establishing a dedicated team allowed us to expand with software developers from other industries. We had established strategy and the expectations of how software engineers exist within an environment that was previously void of those resources. And I sold those candidates on the importance of their role and provided them with the value add, which is deploying new technology, not figuring out how to ensure the organization they're joining knew what to do with them. So naturally, we had to figure out how the software team worked with the engineering teams. Yeah, it all starts with an idea, and our employees were jumping at the chance to work with our software team. We had to standardize a pathway for ideas to be captured, to be vetted, and to be prioritized prior to any development effort. This became the crucial handshake between our software team and our core business. Next, it's all about execution. Even our software teams had to go through their own evolution. I like to say often, nobody showed us how to build and operate an effective software team. We had to learn it on our own. So our team embraced the Agile method. And Agile fosters adaptability and collaboration and user satisfaction, ensuring efficient and effective development. So here in that cycle, in the plan phase, this is where the idea gets formalized in writing and put in the development queue for review. All of our employees are encouraged to submit ideas. And in this form that you're seeing here, the key information in that document is a summary of what they're looking for and the motivations behind why they want it. Now, in the design phase, this is where the ideator formally meets with the director of software to finalize the plan and document the scope. This includes any UX, user experience criteria, and any wireframes or sketches to illustrate that envisioned outcome. In the development phase, this is where the software engineers are now coding and building the product. The director of software brought back the scope. The software engineers they start doing their thing. They're coding and building the product based on that design criteria. The emphasis here is in MVP, again, a minimally viable product, which according to this graphic on the left is just enough functionality to create traction with the users for testing. In the testing phase, this is where the original idea creator recruits a small group to test the product for functionality and ease of use. This is before it goes out for production and release. So the emphasis here is to find all the bugs before that aforementioned release to the production environment. In the release phase, this is where the product in an MVP form gets released to the broader organization for everyday use. This needs to be accompanied by documentation and training to ensure users get leverage, so that the users, can leverage the product effectively and efficiently. And then lastly, in the feedback phase, this is where users submit feedback in the form of bugs and improvements to the software team. Any form to collect feedback is good. It just needs to be documented and captured. In fact, we used Yammer, which is a Microsoft-based internal social platform. So this resets now the agile process all over again and leads to new versions of that same product. So what started out as a small group of doer programmers has now blossomed into a team of 26. I think that's pretty darn unique for an engineering firm. That's nearly 20% of our company. We have created over 162 custom Revit products that have had over 576,000 use cases in just the last year. I mean, that's pretty magnificent. And the graphic there at the bottom shows our custom KLH tool ribbon that is directly within the Revit UI. Thomas Edison said the value of an idea lies in the using of it. Translation, it's not worth a damn if nobody's using it. So don't just innovate for innovation's sake. How do we ensure adoption across the company? Well, it started with in-person and virtual trainings. These are lunch and learns, department meetings, etc. for onboarding. Call it instructor-led training. My version of that is I do, you watch. We also held smaller micro labs to ensure learning was occurring, which was led by our power users. Call this instructor support session. Again, in my language, that's you do, now I watch. The best form of learning is the demonstration of that learning. Now, we held the training and hoped our employees went back to work to use the tools, but we learned hope is not a strategy. So we built a means to use data to inspect what we expect, which told us everything we needed to know about adoption, even when additional training was necessary. Now, the video that's currently going is for a tool called Sheet View Editor, and it shows data over the last 12 months. The light blue line, the bottom line, and the fill is showing the number of uses per month. The purple is showing number of users that use the tool that month. The black line near the middle is the date where a new micro lab was introduced to the company. And that visual is showing all of the KLH uses until a certain discipline is selected within the dropdown. Changing each discipline allows us to understand how the teams are using or not using that particular tool. The service group dropdown allows us to look at the tool from the studio perspective. And there are higher use cases across some studios than others because of the types of projects that go through those studios. That's the idea behind this, is to monitor tool use across the different parts of the company, ensuring that all users are utilizing it correctly. Now, if we notice that uses are decreasing, we can set up additional training and feedback sessions to see what needs to be done to improve. The other indicator, and my favorite, are the financial statements. The numbers don't lie. Here you see KLH's gross margin and net margin performance since the beginning of the journey. Increasing gross margin is really difficult. Anyone can simply lay off 20 people or so and suddenly see a spike to that gross margin. We, on the other end, use software and technology to grow that considerably, almost 20 percentage points. In my view, from my chair, gross margin is our best indicator of productivity and that the tools and products are indeed being utilized for that efficiency gain, the consistency across the standardization across our company, yielding that profitability. Another way to look at it is revenue per employee. Again, this is since 2016. This shows as our company grew, so did our revenue per employee, which is a testament to the fact that we are in fact doing more with less. This gives business leaders more bottom line to play with, whether that is reinvestment in the company or sharing the reward, i.e. the profits, with the team. So what I did is I introduced a new open book management philosophy and practice. This is called the Great Game of Business. It's a transparency model that allowed us to take our company to new heights. Now, I would share our financials with the employees every week with the express intent of giving our employees more information and what I call there in number 4, direct line of sight in how they influence the performance of the company. Whether you're in marketing, whether you're in finance, whether you're a software engineer, you understand directly how you impact the performance of the company. In the software engineer's case, they impact that in significant ways by creating an empathetic relationship with the engineers, the users in the company, and then putting in motion now their efforts and their talents to create and code and build new products that leverage and make our engineers that much more efficient. Now, part of this model here is to distribute the profits that our employees, in fact, influenced and created. It also gives us the opportunity to teach business, raise business and financial acumen, communicate the importance of not getting complacent. Success is a really lousy teacher, folks. And then we celebrate our people and our projects as well. Now, this is the construction value stream. The emphasis of the diagram shows that in a typical contractual arrangement, KLH, as the MEP silo here, is serving the needs counter to the direction of the workflow. Said differently, we are too often serving the needs of the architects and ignoring that of the trades. This is why KLH shifted the focus of our design and engineering to support the installing contractors. Internally, we like to say focus on the point of install. So as such, the goal was to use software development and the integration of data to reduce rework that occurs between those silos. Less rework, of course, means faster schedules, fewer change orders, a less expensive construction project, and most importantly, a more enjoyable experience for the owner. Well, yeah, and for us too, I guess. So with this refocus, we developed better MEP tools to deliver higher value. Now I'm going to pause here because the first part of that strategy was focused very much internally. And once we got to a tipping point, that focus went externally. So how do we provide higher value externally to the true consumer of our work, that is the trades? So here are 2 examples of just that. The picture on the left is a 3D isometric of the ductwork on the first floor of an office building. What's interesting about this picture is the floor plan was created from a CAD file, and the structure was created by a tool that can place structural elements over those CAD lines. With the ceiling space being extremely tight, this allowed us to coordinate easier and find paths up to the roof. These views were placed on our construction documents to help visually show what is happening on the 2D plans. Again, the irony of designing in 3D and delivering it in 2D. So the picture on the right there is a duct schedule that lists duct system type, size, and length. And with the tools we created, we can accelerate a deliverable to allow contractors to produce a quicker and more accurate bid. Similarly, in this example, the feeder schedule shows feeder lengths and equipment takeoffs to produce a more concise bid that also allows the reduction of contingencies for unknowns, and my favorite here, means and methods. These feeders are automatically calculated in Revit, and the equipment schedules are automatically linked to the riser diagram. So these automatic updates eliminate these easy, redundant, preventable errors where there's duplicate information. Including this information is on our drawings is typically seen as very risky. That's the consensus in our community. But the irony, however, is we feel that assuming more scope actually reduces the risk and places more value on our services. So let's go back to the tweet from the beginning of the presentation and let's rewrite it from the owner's perspective. And I asked, which blank do you want to be, on the left or the right? I'm sure that the answer is pretty obvious. Now I'm going to switch gears into a couple product demonstrations. This is, I guess, testimonials or proof of the, of what has been developed internally. So here, you can't hear the audio, so I'm going to read it. This is the process for how KLH takes 2D models and creates 3D buildings. So that layer translator tool is one of my favorites because it represents playing offense. And I mentioned hitting those obstacles early. One of those obstacles was, despite our commitment to being completely in Revit, a Revit-based company, the inputs we were receiving from the vast majority of our clients, the architects, were delivering 2D AutoCAD files. So how could we leverage all of the tools and technology that we developed to use in Revit? We had to find a way to bridge that gap, and this tool demonstrates exactly that. Next is a tool called Sync Equipment within our electrical bundle. Sync Equipment's a great example of eliminating preventable issues and mistakes and the ever ongoing challenges of electrical and mechanical coordination internally. That's how we solved it, with automation. Next is probably a general modeling efficiency tool. It's called Bulk Parameter Editor. And the task is changing, well, I'm just gonna play the video. So what you saw with Bulk Parameter Editor is changing key planes in all the sheets. Key plane in the title block came in blank by default, and our users can use Bulk Parameter Editor to filter those sheets by the same area, then apply the same values across all of those sheets. Otherwise, it's a tedious manual process without Bulk Parameter Editor. So one of our missions, and has been a mission since 2016, is how do we influence the industry? How do we raise all ships, so to speak? And one of those things is now, all the products that we've developed for our own internal use and efficiency, we're bringing it to market and we're making it available for purchase. We went through a beta earlier this year with 5 different companies who participated. We're very grateful for that participation and that learning. A few of which that converted over to full-time customers. But there are 4 bundles. There's a general bundle that shows all the modeling efficiency tools. There's an electrical bundle, mechanical, and model management bundle as well, which includes the like of layer translator, sheet view editor, and MMA. Now, this just represents about 15% of the total products that we have developed. But as we go to market, we have a roadmap that defines how and which products will continue to be commercialized and externalized for use. And that takes me to the end of the presentation. I hope it piqued your interest. If it did, I have an offer for you. It's a free 14-day trial, which is available to you on our website. You just navigate to the QR code there. You're free to reach out to me directly or your local IMAGINiT rep for a free discovery consultation, a one-to-one, and even a potential extended 30-day trial for your use internally. And that brings me to a close. Thank you for your time and attention. Let's turn it over for Q&A.
I just want to say thank you for everybody that attended. Thanks, Jim, for participating. And if anybody has any follow-up questions or feedback, feel free to reach out to Jim, myself, or your local IMAGINiT rep.